If somebody asks you what you're doing, will you know how to answer them? And if they ask you what you did yesterday, what you're going to do tomorrow, and what you've been doing recently, will you be able to answer that? Yes, that's right. Today we're going to be talking about basic verb tenses on this week's episode of
Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Hi, I'm Reza.
And my name's Craig.
And with nearly 50 years of teaching experience between us, we'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you, Craig?
I'm very well, thank you. Very happy to be back on the microphone helping our listeners improve their English. How are you?
I feel great, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Helping people here in the podcast is what we love best.
So let's begin with a voice message going all the way over from Valencia, Spain to Rwanda in Africa. Here's a message from Augustin.
Hello, podcasters, Craig and Belfast Reza. My name is Augustine and I'm from Rwanda, East Africa. So I came up online looking for a place to practice my English as I'm preparing for the TOEFL IPT exam. And I came along and find your website podcast, those English training podcasts. And I got interested. I think I will be enjoying the whole thing with you. So I wanted just to comment on your podcast, and it's very enjoyable. I feel happy with it. It is understandable. And I think it will improve my English. So the next episode will be so interesting about translation, interpreting. It's one of the things I want to do here in my country. So thanks for all your work, all you do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Augustin, for your lovely voice message all the way from Rwanda in East Africa. And you are definitely going to go very far in your career in translation because your English is excellent. Very, very good. We understood everything.
Yes, what a lovely accent. Very, very good accent, good pronunciation, and perfect grammar, and near perfect vocabulary.
Why near perfect, Reza?
Well, it's funny you said, Craig, we could understand everything, and we could, and that is therefore a great success. There's just one word you used which I would change. You said, Augustine, that our podcast was understandable. We wouldn't say that. We would say our podcast is easy to understand. There is a word understandable in English, but it has a different meaning. If something is understandable, it means you can sympathize or empathize, or you accept the explanations that someone's given for something. For example, imagine I'm supposed to meet you at 11 o'clock, but you arrive very late at 12:30, and I say, oh, where have you been? You've kept me waiting for an hour and a half. And you say, well, I was violently ill and I had to go to hospital. They give me some tablets and now I'm better. I say, okay, right, that's understandable. In that case, I'm not angry. The reasons you've given me have convinced me. Now I understand the situation.
Or if I say that Reza has increased his price per hour as an English teacher and now he's asking $100 an hour to teach you English, well, that's understandable because he's a very, very good teacher.
It's not true, by the way. I don't charge that much. I wish I could, but no, I'm not that good.
Not yet. Anyway, Augustine, we have spoken about translation and interpreting back in episode 279. So that might be interesting to you. Go to inglespodcast.com/279 and listen to that episode on translation and interpreting.
You also said that you're thinking about doing a TOEFL exam, the American TOEFL exam. We actually spoke about that a long time ago in an early episode. If you go to episode 68, yeah, so inglespodcast.com/68, 6-8. We spoke about the American TOEFL and the International IELTS exam. So there's some useful information there. And good luck with the exam, Augustine.
Yeah, good luck, mate. Let's look at some basic verb tenses now and start with the present simple tense. Here's an example. Reza, where do you work?
I work in Valencia. I teach English here.
So there are two verbs in the present simple. He works in Valencia and he teaches English. Use the present simple for facts, habits, situations that are permanent. Also for stative verbs. That means verbs that are not used for an action, like speaking or driving or walking. What are examples of stative verbs, Reza?
A stative verb, so a verb which is not an action, is of course the verb to be. I am Reza and he is Craig.
And we are podcasters.
It's our state. Podcasting is a state of mind. So we are Reza and Craig. When we're podcasting, we're Reza and Craig. When we're eating, we're still Reza and Craig. When we're sleeping, when we're doing anything, when we're walking, we're Reza and Craig. So to be Reza or to be Craig is not an action. It's a state. To eat is an action. To sleep, to podcast is an action. But to be Reza, to be Spanish, or to have a brother, to have a sister, is not an action, it's a state. So they're called stative verbs. So present simple, well, in fact, it could be present simple or past simple. Stative verbs are always simple. They cannot be progressive. They cannot be continuous, progressive. They usually don't go with the ing form. They're not continuous, or we also say progressive. They're simple.
And it's interesting that you used usually there, which is an adverb. We often use words like usually and often when we use the present simple. I usually go, I sometimes eat, I never speak, I rarely drink. So the adverb will go before the main verb.
Craig, you mentioned various functions, various uses of the present simple. There's more than one. For example, the first thing you mentioned was facts. Hechos, facts. For example, the sun is hot. That's a fact. It's science. It is. The sun is hot. Present simple. Can you think of an example sentence for the second function, which you said was habits or habitual actions? So, Craig, can you think of any habits or habitual actions that you do?
Well, we podcast every week. I eat at least one piece of chocolate every day. That's a habit. I've got the habit of eating a small piece of chocolate after lunch or after dinner. That's a habit.
So they've got to be present simple. You can't say we're podcasting plus every week. No, if it's a habit, it's present simple. We podcast. What about a permanent situation, something which doesn't change?
Well, you could say, for example, that Stephanie is Craig's sister. So using the verb to be because she is my sister, and that doesn't change. That's a permanent situation.
We mentioned earlier the difference between action verbs and stative verbs or state verbs. They're not actions. And we said that stative verbs are always simple, so they could be present simple or they could be past simple, but they couldn't be present continuous or past continuous. That's impossible. An example is, I need a new pair of earphones. To need something isn't an action, it's a state. There's no action involved with need. So you can't say I'm needing. No, I need a new pair of earphones.
I need a holiday. That's a state.
Craig, what about regular or repeated activities?
Well, you have a dog, Coco. Hello, Coco. And you take Coco for a walk. But how often do you take Coco for a walk? Do you always take Coco for a walk? Usually, occasionally, rarely? How often?
I usually take Coco for a walk once or twice a day, but occasionally 3 times. But I usually take Coco for a walk every day, in the morning and in the evening.
And remember to put that adverb of frequency just before the verb, not after. And another example with the present simple is for timetables and schedules. For example, the bus to Birmingham leaves tonight at 11 o'clock. Or my lesson at university starts at 10:30. So for timetables, transport schedules, use the present simple. What about the present continuous, Reza?
Well, continuous, as the word suggests, is about things which are continuing. So, one important use of present continuous, also called present progressive by some people, is for activities happening now. In other words, they're in progress. Like, we're recording a podcast at the moment. It's happening now. We're recording. So the verb to be, we are, plus ing, we're recording.
We also use the present continuous when we speak about temporary situations. For example, recently Reza was decorating his flat. He was doing up his flat and he wasn't living there. So he might have said in the past, I'm living with a friend while my house is being painted. So they're painting his house. At the moment, he's not living in his house, he's living with a friend. It's a situation that's temporary and it's not permanent.
Yes, and did you notice, alert listeners, that there are two present continuous verbs in that sentence? I'm living with a friend, because that's temporary, and my house is being painted. That's also temporary. One of them is active, I'm living, and the other one is passive. My house is being painted. That's present continuous, but it's passive.
We also use the present continuous for a future plan or arrangement. For example, I'm travelling to Belfast for Christmas.
Is it true?
Possibly. Are you travelling to Belfast this Christmas?
Yes, you literally took the words right out of my mouth. I am travelling to Belfast for Christmas. Oh, we should say, yeah, this is the thing about the world of cyberspace. Who knows, you might be listening to this podcast at Christmas or after Christmas. We're recording it just before Christmas.
But you usually go to Belfast for Christmas. There's the present simple for
Right.
habits.
I
So
usually go.
it could be in 2020, 2021.
Right, yeah. But this Christmas, this specific year,
2019.
I'm traveling to Belfast for Christmas. So it's a plan or an arrangement. It's not a habit because it's present continuous. I'm traveling.
And remember, with stative verbs, as Reza said before, don't forget that stative verbs are not usually in the continuous form. We would say, for example, do you understand what I'm saying? We would not say, are you understanding? Because understand is a stative verb.
Say, on the other hand, is an action verb. To say something, hello, how are you, blah, 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 blah. I'm saying things. I'm opening my mouth and words are coming out. That's an action. So I'm saying is present continuous because I'm saying it now. But do you understand is not present continuous. It's present simple because it's a stative verb.
And more examples, I believe you, stative verb, believe. We do not say I am believing. And what do you want? To want something, stative verb, not what are you wanting. So be careful of the difference between stative verbs for feelings and for states.
Craig, we spoke a minute ago about my plans for Christmas. I said I'm travelling to Belfast and I used a present continuous for a future plan, something which is impossible in Spanish language. However, there's another way to talk about future plans, which is similar to Spanish. What's that?
It's called the going to future. So it's going to plus an infinitive verb. And we use that to speak about the future, specifically for plans that we have, for intentions, things that we intend to do in the future, and also things that we expect to happen or we expect not to happen. Can you think of an example?
Well, I've got a question for you. Are you going to work this afternoon?
Well, I'm going to have a lovely lunch with my good friend Reza. And after that, I'm going to have a siesta. And then I'm going to do some work. What about you?
I'm going to work after this delicious lunch, which you've prepared for me. And then I think because I'm tired, I'm going to go to bed early.
Do you think you're going to be rich someday?
If I keep on podcasting for free,
No.
I don't think I'm going to be rich now.
Well, being rich is not always about money, my friend.
I think of the knowledge and happiness that you and I bring to people via the cyber airwaves.
And we have very rich experiences as podcasters. What about the weather tomorrow?
Is it going to be sunny tomorrow, do you think?
I think it's probably going to be sunny. Notice the pronunciation. We don't usually say going to. We make it a weak form, especially the to. So not going to, but gonna. Do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be hot tomorrow? Do you think you're going to have a siesta today?
Quite often in pop lyrics, when you see them written down, if they use a going to for a future plan, they actually write it as Gonna. Now, you shouldn't normally do that in correct English, but it's okay in pop music. What are you gonna do? So Gonna. Like also want to, I wanna, Wanna, because that's how we pronounce it. I'm gonna be rich someday.
Let's look at the past simple now. So we use past simple to speak about the past at a specific time or period. And it is definitely the past. It's not connected to now. So if you think about last weekend, well, last weekend is finished. It's in the past. Reza, did you do anything special last weekend?
Did I do anything special? No, I didn't. I just had a relaxing weekend. What about you?
I worked all day Saturday. Saturday now is a very long day. I taught English from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon. Sunday I relaxed and I didn't do much.
How many classes did you teach on Saturday morning?
Only 2, but they're very long. So I had 2 very long classes.
How long did each class last?
They lasted about 3.5 hours, 3 3/4 hours each. So one was an exam class, which lasted a long time. And the other one, General English, also was over 3 hours long. So notice we use time expressions like last weekend, yesterday, last year, in 1999, specific time expressions referring to past time. Also, we use ago with the past simple. I learned Spanish a long time ago.
Or if you don't want to say a specific word or expression like last weekend or Tuesday or 1999, it could be like a period of your life. So I could say, when I was young. So that's a time, well, it's a time period in my life. When I was young, I lived, past simple, I lived in a large house with a garden. So things like when I was young or during the war or in my childhood or at my time living in Berlin. And then followed by a past simple because it's a period in the past.
But that's not in the past, Reza, because you are still young.
Oh, Craig, what flattery. What piropo.
When I was young. What time, another example, what time did you go to bed yesterday?
I went to bed at about midnight. What about you?
Went to bed at 12:30.
Ooh, after midnight.
Yep.
Naughty.
Yep, you see, I'm still young. I can go to bed later than you. Let's look at the present perfect now. What's the difference, Reza, with the present perfect? How would you describe when we use this tense?
Well, first of all, I would say be careful with the terminology present perfect. You think, oh, present perfect, so that's only for the present. Not so, not so. Present perfect is used for things in the past, but a non-specific or an undetermined time in the past, and usually with a connection to now. I'll give you an example. I've tried chicken liver pate. It's quite tasty, actually. Have you ever tried it?
I have. Yep, I agree. It's very tasty. I've had chicken liver pate many times.
So I know now that Craig has eaten chicken liver pate. He knows I've eaten it. But when did he eat it? I've no idea. I say when did he because I'm asking specifically when with a past simple. I don't know. The only thing I know is that sometime between the past and now, Craig has eaten chicken liver pate, but I don't know when.
And the connection with now is that we know the taste. It's also used very often with life experiences because we are still alive. We're not dead. If you speak about the life of a dead person, you use past simple. But because Reza and I are alive, we use present perfect for our life experience. I've been to Venezuela. I've tried chicken liver pate. I've travelled in a train across Europe. What have you done in your life?
More for Craig, a better question would be, what haven't you done? He's the man who's done everything. This man has ticked his complete bucket list of things to do.
Well, I've never been to Belfast.
Oh, then you haven't lived. Then you haven't lived. This is a common expression. That means you've really got to do it. Craig, you know that I'm flying to Belfast for Christmas. They're my future plans. Have you made plans for Christmas yet?
No, I haven't made any plans yet. Notice the use of that word yet. I haven't done it yet. I haven't bought a ticket yet. If you have done something, it's common to use already. So I've already bought a ticket. I've already made plans. I've already arranged my trip.
Another use of the present perfect is things which have been happening continuously from the past to now. So let's make a distinction. When I said earlier, I've tried chicken liver pate and it's very tasty, what I was saying was that at some time, or maybe more than once in my life, I've eaten chicken liver pate, but I haven't been eating it continuously since then up to now because, I would be extremely fat. In fact, I'd probably be dead, wouldn't I? Imagine me continually and never stopping eating chicken liver pate. No, I've eaten it a few times, but not continuously.
You don't look like a chicken. You haven't. No, you don't have feathers.
I do look like a bit of a turkey, but not a chicken. Yeah. So I've tried chicken liver pate. That's present perfect simple. But sometimes when we use present perfect continuous, it tells us that the action has been happening continually from the past up to now. Let me ask Craig a question. How long have you been teaching English?
I've been teaching English for about 25 years. So I started, past simple, 25 years ago, and I have been teaching for 25 years. Or I can say since. So I've been teaching English since 1995.
So that was a present perfect continuous from the past up to now. But actually, you can also use a present perfect simple from the past up to now. For example, he hasn't been married for very long. That's present perfect simple. I didn't say he hasn't been marrying. No. He hasn't been married because to be married is a state. It's not an action. So remember what we said about state verbs? They can't be continuous. So to be married is a state. It's not an action. So he has been married for a long time, or negative, he hasn't been married for a very long time, is continuous from the past up to now. But we don't use present perfect continuous. We use present perfect simple because it's a state verb.
Well, we hope this verb tense review has been useful for you for basic tenses, and we will be doing a review of more advanced verb tenses in the near future. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Can you use these verb tenses correctly? We would like to hear you using them, so please send us a voice message and practice them. You can do that by going to speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. And also you can send us an email. Reza, how can people contact us by email?
Well, they could get in touch with me. That's at belfastreza@gmail.com or craig@inglespodcast.com.
And we'd like to thank our Patreon supporters, as always, who are supporting us with the podcast. A special thanks to Carmen Romero, who joined us this month. Reza, what's next week's podcast about?
On next week's episode, and we have a special guest coming to help us, we've got the differences between British and American English.
We look forward to that. Thank you very much for listening this week. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.